I think when you look at that, like we have to let's evaluate what the Nikola Vucevic trade was. So right, so the Bulls ended up sending Wendell Carter and 2 first-round picks for Nikola Vucevic. Those first-round picks ended up turning into Franz Wagner and Jet Howard in 2023. Franz was drafted in 2021, and Franz is a key piece now of that Orlando Magic team that has aspirations of being one of the best teams in the Eastern Conference. They suffered tons of injuries that held them back last year, but they definitely have the up arrow. They're on their way up, and I think they're going to have a big season in the 2025-26 season. And so, a fair question to ask there, right, is like, is the Nikola Vucevic trade the biggest mistake? And I think when you look at it, I want to break this down by not only just the trade itself, but subsequently what happened in that trade, right? Part of the reason we did not draft Walker Kessler when Dalen Terry was on the board is because we already had Nikola Vucevic on our roster. Now, will I say, I want to be clear here, Vooch has not been terrible for the Chicago Bulls. And for so often, so many Bulls fans talk about it as if Vooch has been this terribly unproductive player, and that's just not correct. That's why in this tier that Zachary Cram has them in, it's like just too hard for what too high of a cost for what you got back. Now that I do agree with. Giving up 2 first-round picks, one that ended up becoming Franz Wagner is always going to hurt. Now Wendell, you have some Bulls fans who try to act like Wendell's turned himself into some like great NBA player. Wendell's Wendell. He's almost the same player that he is here, just with different opportunity, different makeup of the roster around him. Not to say that Wendell's been terrible either, but I don't look at Wendell as some terrible cost to pay for Nikola Vucevic. The biggest cost came, and I think one of the biggest reasons the Nikola Vucevic trade did hurt so much for the Chicago Bulls is that the Bulls did not make the playoffs that first year. Remember, they were on pace to make the playoffs that first year that we traded for Nikola Vucevic. We're talking about even before DeMar and Lonzo came here. But then Zach LaVine went down with COVID and was out. What, he missed like the last 2-3 weeks of the season, something like that. Before then, the Bulls were more than on pace to be able to make the playoffs that year. And had they made the playoffs, that pick would have been a totally different pick. And thus, you wouldn't have got somebody the caliber of Franz Wagner. So that alone really changed that package so much. And the Bulls were looking at that trade when they made it as, okay, bet we're going to get Vooch. We're probably going to be able to make the playoffs, and you didn't. And thus, you then went on to not really do much else. Like the fact, and maybe I'm wrong for you using the Walker Kessler part, because I get it. They're technically 2 separate transactions. And had you not had Nikola Vucevic, you probably would have drafted Franz Wagner. Now, who's to say? AK is AK. Maybe he still wouldn't have made that decision. It is what it is when it comes down to that.